work session, which we normally don't allow public participation, but it's interesting. We have some interested parties. We want to let them express their opinion. I guess we're here to discuss the two planning issues we have in front of us. Why don't we start with the Christine Village CS1 district. Christine, you want to start off with that?
Sure.
What we need to do to close this out?
Sure, no problem. I think where we left off at the last meeting in September, the board had some questions about how to permit. We talked about multifamily residences along Greenwich Ave, and we talked about how we could permit those, and density possibilities, and affordable housing possibilities, and there were some questions about the architectural overlay regulations and how those would apply. So we put a memo together that tried to respond to all the questions, even if some of them are all over the place. We just listed the architectural guidelines for your own knowledge. And then we listed a couple of different types of residential development. Everyone knows what's on the north side of the street with the residences that are already there. So we really tried to stay away from that because everyone knows what that looks like. We really stuck to different multifamily options, more than 4 units, and what that could look like. Now, as we talked about in the memo, there are some constraints, particularly the lot sizes. So, probably not a likelihood of a large residential development unless a lot of things become available and there are some, compiling of the parcels there. But we just gave you some options of what's available, so at least everyone knows. And then we talked about the affordable option. We didn't really make a lot of recommendations. We kind of just left everything open for the board because this is kind of our first discussion of it, for anyone to make comments or which way if anyone has an opinion one way or the other. Some municipalities do it mandatory. In the town of Goshen, it's mandatory. Some places do it as like a density bonus, as an option to have some more units. There's lots of possibilities, and there's not necessarily a right or wrong way. So, I guess it's kind of a workshop. So we should just discuss the options that are kind of laid out because we didn't really make any strong recommendations one way or the other.
The options are?
The options, well, the options are basically the types of multifamily housing. Basically, the CS1 already is going to permit any type of retail, any type of service, all the things that the CS currently permits. So, really the option, unless you want to get into other types of uses, like industrial uses, the options for the CS1 are really going to be these multifamily options. The townhouses stacked or side by side. You see the pictures in the memo that we distributed of what that can look like, and the densities that those typically are associated with. Apartments. I included the picture of Carriage Park. We talked about it at the last meeting with the density that is there. That's kind of an anomaly because it was created. It was built originally to be senior, so it's a little bit more flat, and he was geared towards seniors at the time it was constructed. And then, of course, mixed use, which is already permitted, you already have, but that's basically the other type of development.
So you're looking for comment?
Yes, that would be great.
The question that we need to decide, I think we're all on the same page with regard to commercial uses. We decided that last time. The commercial uses that are in place, we want to maintain that, keep it the way it is. We want to allow the religious land use there, and it's just a matter of the density of households, correct?
Yes, density and types of development. I mean,
multi-dwelling,
you can restrict to a particular type of ownership, fee simple ownership, versus condominium or rental, and you can restrict the type if you prefer, one type of development versus another. You can basically design by design, you can create the type of development that you're looking to have.
And already exists, well, was proposed to exist, as it does in the CS district, the mixed-use structures, where you
Yes.
would have a mixture of uses and,
Yes.
and have apartments as well.
Mhm.
I was comfortable with that. I don't see that parcel, I mean, the way that they're constructed. They're shallow
Yes.
parcels, and there's a steep gradient. I think that the mixed-use structure, as we had proposed it, I thought was appropriate for that zone. Beyond that, any of these other considerations, I mean, if you were to consider there being, let's say, the stacked townhouses, I think you would have to limit you'd have to stay within the limits of height and number in order that it not overwhelm that entire zone.
Yes, and it will be difficult in that particular area based on the parcel size, as you said, to have a large development. I'm not sure if there would be a market to build 5 townhouse units.
Exactly. I mean, if that were the market, then I could stand behind that.
Right.
However, the fact that you would be looking, or whomever would be looking to develop it in order to make it financially feasible for them to do so, would have to be, in my opinion, or my assessment anyway, it would have to be so many units per acre that you would be overwhelming the district, and I don't know that I think that that's appropriate. That's my concern at any rate. I like the mixed-use structure as it was proposed because it allows for all different kinds of uses there, and keeps it appropriate with, I think, the scale of the district. Beyond that, I'm certainly open to discuss anything, but I've expressed my concerns going with the others.
Anybody else on the board have comments?
Actually, I would agree. Looking this over, I think mixed use presents the best option of the 3 housing types of options, I guess 4 on this list, but excuse me, I just think of the look of it, brings a little more residential use, and also brings with it some commercial uses for retail, that type of thing.
Anybody else on the board have anything? Okay, any of our residents want to say anything?
I would like to comment that I believe that, I want to see you're correct on the north side, I'm not sure, but on where the houses are typically located, where the lots are, the topography doesn't allow really for the type of, multiple housing. But Joe Green's property, for instance, our property, I believe we have the depth and the breadth of property that it might work. I have no proposal, or nobody has approached me. Our property is for sale with that kind of option. So I'm not speaking firsthand, but I would think that there might be enough property there that it would not be overwhelming for the size of the site. I believe Joe has roughly 6 or 7 acres, and we have 4.5, so together, and they are contiguous. There are a few small parcels in between, Jim Murray and then the Renaissance Realty Building. But I believe that you might have 10 to 13 acres there, and I don't know how many. I haven't had a chance to read the report. I couldn't open it up. How many dwellings per acre were you proposing?
Well, it depends on the specific type of residential development.
But it was condominiums, and like 10 per acre, and we had 13 acres or 10 acres. You're talking about 100 units over a 10-acre parcel. I'm not sure. I'm not a planner, so I would be curious as to what the recommendation would be, so that doesn't look like New York City.